I'd like to welcome everybody out to our third Economic Opportunity Summit, for lack of, I can't remember the whole thing that Bill came up with. It's a paragraph long. But first what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have an introduction from our Mayor, Stephanie Scott. And then we're going to have an update by Mr. Beck. And then we're going to go to our PowerPoint presentations by Dave Haney. We have some interesting information from our elected officials. One's in D.C., not so much the state level. Apparently, did the state gentleman make it here? We'll be visiting you later on. So if any time there's a question, please raise your hand. This is really informal. What the process after we have the presentations, we'll start at one end of the table, and the gentleman or lady will introduce themselves, who they represent, and what their plans are. What we're looking for is what they're going to need from the community of Haines to make sure that we give them an opportunity or a facility that matches their needs. We don't want to be left out in the dark and at 11:59 p.m. realize we made a mistake. So that's why we continue getting everybody here, giving updates, and the exploration people and the mining people and transportation people, they have updates too. So it's really informal, and we're going to start off real quick. So, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'm almost overwhelmed by the awesome crew that is here before me with ever to the players. It's my honor to welcome and recognize this room full of dignitaries, and thank you for coming from Juneau. Really appreciate it. Development requires transportation of goods. We all know that. And the least expensive method of transporting goods is rail or water. Where are our rails? We know that too. Haines is uniquely situated to serve as a transportation hub for the Yukon and western and interior Alaska. There are those in this room who long for rail connection to Haines. But we mustn't let this longing overshadow the fact that Haines hosts the most secure water port that you can find in the Upper Lake Canal. We have not one, but three permitted deep water docks in our industrial area. Mr. Curtis, do you need
Dave, why don't you step in the microphone?
Oh, you can't hear me? Do we have to? I love having a microphone. No,
You're dangerous with the microphone.
Okay, yes, as long as it's not, is this better?
Yes.
Okay. What?
There he is.
Well, is that, if Jack, this is for you. Okay, all right. I'm going to repeat the last paragraph just for you, Jack. There are those in this room who long for a rail connection to Haines. But we mustn't let this longing overshadow the fact that Haines hosts the most secure deep water port that you can find in the Upper Lake Canal. We have not one, but three permitted deep water docks in our industrial port area. We had a gale here a couple of days ago. The winds clocked 70.1 miles per hour at Elwood Rock. Anywhere else in the world, that's a hurricane. In Alaska, it's just a gale. My point is that if you docked into Lukacs Port area during that wind event, you would be safe. Our docks along the deep water industrial port area are in geographically sheltered waters. Nothing will ever change that. You can count on it. Haines is a vibrant community. We are diverse. There are a multiplicity of lifestyles here, all of which are jealously held. But I believe that we share a common love for the sea. Lately, this has been translated into a multi-million-dollar cruise ship dock replacement, followed on by a multi-million-dollar harbor enlargement project, one in service of ships full of passengers, one in service of boats full of fish. With some work by all concerned, I believe that our community can come together in support of a significant port development project. I believe that it is a mayor's job to build consent for projects that can predictably and reliably bring benefit to the entire community. I believe that port development is a project of this nature. and I look forward to working with you to bring Haines Port Development to reality. Thank you for coming, and thank you for working on it.
Anybody who needs
I could probably talk about it.
most of it.
Well, it's for Jack.
Oh, it's fun to use microphone, Larry.
Okay.
It's
Fun to have.
it's going forward.
I'm Larry Beck, the president of Children's Lumber Company. We realize we have, the potential for, one of the best deep water ports here in the Haines area. And we're looking for partners or public-private partnership, something like that. We can come up with a big plan that is economically feasible, that we can, develop a water port, support the mining industry and LNG industry that gets to that point. The permitted dock, we've had 44,000-ton ships up there, 19 acres on the water side of the road for development, and we've been working for, if that's what we could for the last few years on the environmental remediation in the area. We've got one little jab to go with contaminated soil. We'll have that done by next year sometime and get started on it this week. Or DEC authorization to do that is in the works right this weekend. And we're looking forward to finding an niche that we can work with, get on the big thing is we have to find a partner, some sort of private partner or public-private partnership that we can, go ahead and develop this with, making use of that property.
Did anybody hear that? Was the microphone working?
No.
It's good to you want to say something? What's with me?
I heard myself rattling.
So David,
Oh, okay. Okay, we have two videos, and I'll just let them go down, and it was
take the.
I think we have taken faith that John made a wonderful welcome speech. And it was, very nice window dressing was the primary, the main message, and he's very supportive. He understands. He says he never met a harbor he just didn't love. So he's very supportive.
He also pointed out that this year he's the ranking member of the Transportation Committee, and for whatever we may come up with that's new or different than what's been in the past, we give it to him, and he'll do what he can.
Everything can decide to start working here. It's only eternal speakers. So this is our governor, and he was mayor of Valdez. He's very experienced with reports and test reports. And he was similarly very supportive. He was here at our board meeting last September, so he's actually been engaged and very familiar with the project here. And he had very nice things to say, and if he comes up and everything, he's going to be very, very supportive, of the project.
The nice thing is, for the several minutes that he's on here, he just did this the other day. There's not one political comment. It's all down to business about when he was mayor of Valdez and over the port there and other port work was done. He didn't take advantage of it.
Both these presentations are on our website, Haines Port Development Council. You can watch them there.
Good
All
listen to
the
them.
works there.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, those videos play actually on our website. So definitely check that out. There's a lot more information on the website than actually what we're showing here tonight. There's a lot of real details on it. copies of all studies. Okay, well, I'll take it in faith, and Walker has some wonderful things to say. Then we had a nice letter from Lisa Rakowski, and that's it there. She says, it's a very nice thing. She's very supportive. Lisa's been here several times since we've been in operation as a group, as a Port Development Council. She's very familiar with what we're trying to do here, and very, very supportive. So she was nice enough to send us a letter. And once again, this letter is actually right up front on our website. And we had a letter from Isabel. And he was similarly, he's also a staff relation. One way of just showing you this media exists, and you go to our website if you want to actually listen to the videos.
And on the letter with Becky, she basically about having been here and Stephanie talking with him about our port. Well, I was here, she refers to the letter.
Okay, now this is a PowerPoint show. I want to just go through it relatively quickly here tonight. We showed this at our board meeting last year. There's a couple of really important things to take note of. And one is Haines' location in relation to this barrier of mountains that really blocks off access from the coast for much of Alaska and British Columbia. And Haines has this.
Dave, you go to the slideshow, and so this is the entire.
Yeah. Let's see if I can. Oops. But we've got the big idea of that. Other stuff, I don't know. I'm not sure what the jet is particular.
Well, no, you go up to the headings up there where it's a slideshow. You click on that, and you click on Start File, and then the whole thing will go to the screen.
And the slide itself.
Yeah, the slideshow up there at the top, it says File. On the far right, it says Animation Slideshow. Keep going over to your right.
Insert design.
Keep going, right there, click on that. And then see where it says Start from Current Slide.
Okay, well, I want to just scroll.
No, but I mean, if you do it that way, then the whole picture's on the.
Yeah. Well, I should be able to also click this picture on this edge just for a slow try that. I don't want to get it into a moment of that where it actually.
All you have to do is push enter, and it goes from slide to slide.
Yeah, I haven't used this. This is the latest. I have not used this.
See on the far left where it says Start from Beginning, underneath File.
Okay.
Click on that.
Okay. And then as far as advancing, slide by slide.
Then you just push enter to go from slide to slide.
Oh, I see, it's got to do it.
Yeah.
And the most important thing about this is Haines' location in relation to drop this down. That changes the location of the slide, drop this down, and maybe the slide on the screen there.
One slide that under. There you go. It did it.
The concept that you've got to breach these coastal mountains to get to the interior, and the Yukon and also eastern Alaska is pretty cut off. Will somebody on a godly level decided to do the deepest fjord in the world right through the coastal mountains, right up to Haines? And then they provided a pass that has gradients gentle enough for any industrial strength railroad. They have no problem grading this, and this was faulty. So this was provided for us in terms of just this very ideal set of conditions, set of features. And the thing that's always amazed me is that not very many people really understood. Even locals, the strategic nature of the location of the Port of Haines, that this is a kind of a buried fact. And I know I'll spout off sort of facts and figures about the Port of Haines, and then people are rather surprised, even though they live here. But anyway, the people, corporations, governments interested in developing the interior north of us have got to have a legitimate way to access their in and out transship. And anybody who wants to get real about doing that is going to have to identify and do the work that it takes to get transshipment arrangements and make it feasible. So that's just one major issue I wanted to.
You have all the ore, oil, and gas in the Yukon that needs to get to the rest of the world. So like Dave was saying, Mother Nature built us a way to get it there. What we're doing here about building a port and building a rail is nothing new. They've been building a rail out of Haines since, what was it, did we find 1886, something like that was the first try? You know, so we're not doing nothing new here. We're just building on what people have done before us. In the early 1900s, the last of Midland that really got furthest. They got out to actually survey, cut brush before they wound up going out with one race or another. I understand that the White Man actually started here. I saw, and Janet saw, a map of the Golden North Hotel years ago when we lived in Skagway. It was a silk map on the second floor of the Golden North, about that long, so wide, it showed what is now the White Pass going out of Haines. So we're not doing anything new here. We're just trying to build on what has built up in the Yukon and what the future looks like in the Yukon. We're, like Dave said, the natural port. Because the grades are low enough that you can haul on rail without losing tonnage. The standard railroad by is if you go over a 2% grade, you start losing tonnage, you can haul. So we're able to stay within that 2% from here in carbon.
You can see on a couple of these slides, there's what look like ore graders. And we can't get it. That's actually what they are. During this last hurricane, there was 1 for 3 days. And what they do, Skagway warships have no place to find, no place to be in Skagway during the storm, so they over. And then they go to Skagway. So we're actually an extension of Skagway's harbor. And this has been that quite some time. So the ocean as the port of refuge, as do the big cruise ships. Every couple of years, a giant cruise ship comes all the way to Haines off the Gulf of Alaska for safety. Where you wouldn't think they'd have to come up to Haines from the Gulf to find a safe harbor, but they do. And they come up here, and our business community has a heyday because those people are so glad to get on that boat. They just flood the town and spend like crazy.
Stephanie, didn't we have a cruise ship that couldn't get into Skagway that came here
This year? Okay, also let me see the Bill was mentioning there's been previous, the Beast Trail is by the Plickets and the Dalton Trail. They were birds of gammas from Haines up to the Bull Rush country. And so we've already got pretty well established history. And Bill was talking about the attempts in the past. Oops. Back to that slide. There's about just 9 corporate entities formed that, of course, at the time, started in 1887, as part of the White Man's and of course, look at Haines. Haines was put in direct competition with Stanford for building a railroad. And then in 1899 and onward, into almost 1920, there were various entities formed for the purpose of building a railroad, essentially from Haines up to the Yukon, the far north. So this is not a new idea. It's been on people's minds for quite some time. So we wanted to make that point.
In fact, the Haines Chamber of Commerce was originally chartered for the purpose of supporting the idea of a rail out of Haines.
You know, there's been a couple of studies that are on our website, and this was the base map taken from the 2007 study sponsored by the state of Alaska and the University of Alaska on the potential of railroad of interties, tying the railroad system together. And basically, those colored sections there indicate like north Haines, Carmax, some potential routes. And there's a north and south east-west route that ties the Alaska Railroad network to the North American Railroad. This is like the last link in North America that's not being hooked up by railroad. It's kind of hard to realize that you think all of North America has got railroads. But there's this whole section that does not exist. And it will be linked up. I mean, it will happen. It's just a question of time. Sometime in the 100-year plan, it will happen. But there's got to be enough impetus, enough justification, enough positive economics to make it occur. So this map just shows the various routes and just mentions the sheltered inland passage route for this shipping. And the sheltered inland passage works as far as from Haines down to Vancouver and Seattle as well. For north-south shipping, we're looking at the high potential of shipping the natural gas by barge up to Haines and then trucking it to various mines up in the Yukon as alternately the most economical way to transfer large amounts of LNG. So I think that's something that will likely.
You touched on the LNG, Dave. If the way they're currently looking at it is trucking from either the Vancouver area or the Calgary area to Whitehorse or to Johns Wellry, that's a lot of miles, and that's one truck at a time. Where you do what you were talking about with the barge, you've got 500 miles from here to Prince Rupert. You put 20 trailers of LNG on a barge, and one tug brings all 20 of them to Haines. You considerably cut the cost and just have the tractors pick up the trailers here and take them up. You don't even need a storage facility here. So that is a way to start to get the LNG moving north in a more economical way, because after all, they have to pay for that by the cubic foot. Like buying oil by the gallon.
And there's going to be a customer base. We've been talking to some of the towns in the southeast, and there's going to be a need for LNG in southeast Alaska. So whoever's barging northward up the coast of Haines will have drop-offs on some of the towns in the southeast as well. So there's going to be a pretty nice little customer base for LNG, plus the volume of LNG there, one of those major mines in the Yukon takes.
Well, the casino mine, when that's built, will use 3 times the amount of electric that is the total consumption of the Yukon right now. So you figure what fuel is being used in the Yukon now. They have mostly hydro, but they're running some diesel, and they're actually in the process of switching to LNG to replace their diesel now. So when you look at something the size of a casino, it's going to use 3 times that total volume. That's an awful lot of power.
And that's just one mine.
And they're talking currently about trucking down the Allegheny. Well, I wonder what that's going to do to the tourism business, to have that ratio of trucks just for one mine.
And then to the road surface, to the road itself.
Oh, yeah. That's one nice thing about LNG is light compared to the other.
So just being in the LNG transshipment business used to be a great business in terms of port needs. That's just one. Okay, This is from the Haines Borough PowerPoint show. They just show the major highway system, the Haines Skagway, Alaska Highway, Haines Junction, White Horse Loop there. And what we've got major highways already, so they were improved all the time. So we have the Haines to the border. Is under constant improvement. They've got plans to make that totally industrial strength in time for if things really start to happen. This is beautiful. I mean, it's highway. I mean, is that major covered by these? I remember the old days when you could get spine damage on the potholes on that road.
You talk about the upgrades to our road. Right now, there's John Sanger from Little Green and Andy Hughes from DOT. If John turns to Andy and says, hey, Andy, I'm really going to be hauling to Haines in about 3 years. Andy's already got the plan of what to do.
This is what we're doing here. Okay, now we were out here with some of us today, and this is the combined port facilities of the industrial port out there. The tank farms, the boroughs, dock, and then this certain other building dock. And it combined the front, which can show frontage there, and built, the docks are built up and through new structure plan, is over 2 miles of just possible waterfront with actual docking facilities. Also, because the Newtown Inlet is sheltered, if development were happening very rapidly, if the need came along sooner than the actual facilities, we could do temporary floating facilities to house certain pieces of equipment, that were operating, because Newtown Inlet is so secure, the water's so flat, even in storm. You can have a very securely and very stable floating facility as a temporary way to house a piece of equipment for a particular operation. You get things going while, say, the onshore facility.
We're going to speed it up.
Yeah. Okay, that was one thing I wanted to point out to make about. And the rest of this, I think we'll be covering just as we pass the hat, pass the feather, pass the torch, and everybody gets their say. So, yeah.
Okay. Got it?
Yep.
I'm going to give out an apology for our media equipment. I swear to you that it worked this afternoon when I came in and delivered the water. Okay. And I did not touch it. So, I left before you. So, what side of the table we want to start at? Kurt, do you want to start?
I'd be happy to
Thank you.
start on this side.
Yep.
For those who don't know me, I'm Kurt Cameron. I wear about 3, possibly 4 hats as it relates to this very interesting enterprise with Haines about transportation of product in and out of the Yukon. I wear a hat as city councilor for the city of Whitehorse, and our city has had an increasing interest in ensuring that the city of Whitehorse, which is by and large the main economic driver for the Yukon Territory, connects with Southeast Alaska in a major way, because we see this relationship as being in the long-term interest of both the city of Whitehorse and also the southeast region of the state. I'm also connected with 3 or 4 others here who have pulled together this company that is looking at the Haines Yukon rail possibility, and that's been an interesting journey as well that connects to tonight's summit. I'm also a consultant with an engineering firm, CH2M Hill, which is a Denver-based engineering company and does work in 120 countries around the world, including a fair amount of work on docks and railroad and gas and energy. So from that perspective, also very strong interest in how we connect the dots between the business of getting on with transportation of goods in and out of Yukon through Haines, but also in terms of just the basic connection with the infrastructure that's going to be required to make all of this come together. And the last one is also my own consulting niche company called Norsense Management Consulting, and that's one where I work a lot with Yukon First Nations that are at a very interesting stage in their own economic maturity. Many of them, 11 of the 14, have established economic development arms that put them in, because of comprehensive land claims that have been settled in the Yukon, put them in a really good position to be part of the economic solution for large projects of this kind. And so, for me, this is kind of the way in which all the pieces intersect with each other. And it intersects in a very interesting way because, as it was explained by one of our engineers who does primarily ports work, he said the port is only one piece in an overall system, and he continues to come back to that word system. It's a system of connecting people with product to other people needing product. And it's only one of the links in that overall chain. So for instance, John is here with a mine about to happen. He needs a system to get his product to a marketplace that's going to bring the value he's got in the ground to the value that individuals want somewhere around the planet. And that could be as far away as Asia. Who knows where that ultimate product or client might be. So it's a matter of looking at these things in terms of an overall vision for a system that is going to marry up all the pieces along the way to deliver to the client that needs a particular product. And the system isn't just about moving raw materials, it's about moving the opposite direction as well, because any of the major mines that will emerge in Yukon or in Alaska, they're also going to need major infrastructure for them to do their job as well. And again, rail makes an awful lot of sense. Barge and rail or ship and rail can move very large pieces of equipment into site to make mines happen. So for a host of reasons, an investment in the vision of this particular system just makes an awful lot of sense. But the main message I'd like to leave in my opening thoughts here are we need to get the pieces in place for it to start. I don't believe we're at the starting point yet because we don't have one of those linkages yet fully established where we can say we're now going to put all the other pieces together in between the supplier and the client or the person who wants the product being produced. And whether that's a cell mine or whether it's a well green or whether it's LNG or gas from the North Slope, who knows? Who knows what that might look like? We don't have those pieces in place yet, and I think that's really where the job should focus now, is for us to connect all of those dots so that we can get this thing moving. My opening thoughts, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Larry, you want to speak again? You set it up? Next.
My name is Murray Arsenault. I'm the Deputy Minister of Economic Development with the Government of Yukon. And I'm here, I guess, primarily just to demonstrate to the Port Development Council and to folks who are interested the regard with which we hold our relationship with Haines. John, with Wellgreen Platinum through the marketing group that he works with as he talks about his project, the Yukon Mining Alliance, will tell you that when we are marketing Yukon and the opportunities in resource extraction in Yukon around the world, we trumpet the ease of market access for our properties through our Ice Port access in the Lynn Canal. We do mention this. But talk about you on the world stage. I'll be in Munich, Zurich, and London in 3 weeks. Atlanta, Boston, and New York in 2 weeks. And the third slide in our 10-slide presentation is the relationship we have with our friends in the Southeast. So we value our relationship, we value what we consider to be our existing partnership, and I can't say any more eloquently than Kirk that, you know, that we look forward to the progression of opportunities to continue to offer access to the properties and resources that are in Yukon. Mining is our cornerstone industry. Yes, we're working hard to diversify our economy as best we can, but we've been kind of important to mining since about 1898 or so, and we plan on staying there. So appreciate the opportunity and look forward to further discourse.
You guys don't have to wait for the appointment, just keep it.
Perfect.
I'm Mike Schmeling, and this is Jay Deckhart. We're representing the Alaska Mountain Guides and Chilkat Guides, and just the voice that tourism can play in this as well. We talk about the transport in goods and minerals here, but I think there also, as far as economic development goes, the potential for the tourism industry. For myself, being based in Skagway, during the summer months, I see what White Bass brings to that community, and just the potential for the process of this is, I think, has a lot of potential benefit for the community maintenance.
Yeah, I'm Jay Decker, and I work for Alaska Mountain Guides here in Haines. And our business is, the soul of our business is adventure, but the nuts and bolts is transportation, essentially. You know, we transport people by rafts down rivers and on buses up highways, and we do our business on the periphery of established transportation infrastructure. You know, so we're excited about this. Very exciting.
So my name is Sam Pito. I am the current representative of District 32, which does not include Haines and Cluster, but does include Skagway and Gustavus and Juneau and Douglas Island. I am currently running for the office that will include Haines and Cluff One, along with Skagway, Gustavus, Juneau, and Douglas Island. I am interested in this just because it's part of our region. There are a lot of things that I don't know that I'm going to learn tonight through the discussion. For my background, I am a civil engineer. I've worked on a lot of road transportation planning, transportation construction, and port development projects throughout Alaska. So from a technical perspective, I'm very curious about all of the aspects of possible development of port and transportation systems throughout the district, especially here in the Northern Lake Canal. So looking forward to the discussion and looking forward to hearing what everybody else has to say.
Bill Kurtz, I'm a member of the Haines Port Development Council board at the Yukon Railway. Gentleman right over there. Jack is the man who got me started on the idea of rail here. I was a previous member of the Borough Assembly that got me started on the port when one night he threw up his hands and said, "What the heck is it? Don't matter what we do, everything goes to Skagway." So I kind of got determined to find out why it is everything goes to Skagway. Well, everything goes to Skagway because Skagway's done a wonderful job of advertising Skagway. And here we are with this beautiful port, lots of elbow room, all kinds of room to grow. And nobody had ever advertised our port. Yes, different businesses have been out there and took care of advertising their business, but nobody advertised the port. So it was a little over 5 years ago that I got to know Jack, and he mentioned the rail idea, and I was hot on the port idea. I went to Whitehorse, met with one of Murray's predecessors, who was very happy that I came in there with a business plan. I didn't come in there with a handout. Seems that another established railroad was some of the ideas when they have their handout. See, I didn't mention their name. So, at any rate, that's where this started. And I'm proud to say that it keeps on growing. Something we had 2 years ago, we were a heck of a start, had a lot of people talking, but never would have talked to each other any other way. Getting our Alaska government and the Yukon government talking was a big step. Getting industry talking to both governments was a great thing. And they're still doing it. And that's why I'm so happy to see people here tonight to continue the process and hopefully get closer to actually develop our port. Dave?
You're supposed to be a short introduction.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm Dave Berry. I'm a Haines Port Assembly member, also a member of the Haines Port Development Council and the Yukon, Alaska Yukon, Haines Yukon Railroad. And, believe it or not, my family has a lot to do with the Midland Railroad. My great-grandfather was the gentleman that brought all the groceries from our Fort Chilkoot Harbor to the mine. People worked on the trail up to Kelso, so I had a connection there. But I'm excited for the mere fact that the potential in the Yukon and British Columbia and parts of Alaska for mineral development, economic development such as natural gas, anything, liquid, anything that has the potential to lower the costs of living in this community that can be done economically and environmentally sound, I support it. I don't know if anybody had a chance to go to the grocery store here, but we're paying $6.79 for a gallon of milk. And I don't even know what the price of bread costs anymore. I quit looking back when it's $3. So if anything we do can drive down the cost of living here, I think it'll benefit everybody. So that's really why I'm into it. Haines, for the last 100 years, has been exporting their children. We educate our children, raise them in our house, and they go somewhere else to work. And I think it's about time we try to stop that. I don't know how to do it, but I think this is one opportunity that we could provide some form of economic benefit or opportunities for employment that could allow our children to come home. It sure would be nice to see my grandkids other than on FaceTime or, our cell phone. So that's why I'm really into it.
Okay. My name is Liz Cornejo. I work for a company called Constantine Metal Resources. We operate a mid-stage mineral exploration project just on the highway here in Haines. We're exploring for copper, zinc, mainly with a bit of gold and silver. We've been operating there since 2007 and are still working to define an economic resource that would support mining activity. And in the meantime, we're happy to learn more and support what we can about, improving transportation of hopefully some potential concentrates that we'd be looking to ship from here. The Palmer project is in partnership with a Japanese company who operates a smelter in Japan, and certainly having the ability to large concentrate across to our customers is something that we're very keen on supporting and learning more about as well.
Thank you, and you've heard from me, I'm Stephanie Scott, I'm member from Haines, and I believe that transportation infrastructure is the key to our prosperity, and planning for it is the only thing that we can do wisely, and we have to plan together. And so I'm happy to participate in this roundtable and hopefully move this project forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Jones, and I'm a senior policy advisor to Governor Parnell. I live in Anchorage. Clearly, the governor over his tenure has been a strong supporter of economic development throughout the state, particularly as it relates to oil and gas and mining, but also other industries. Also, the governor has what we would say is a good relationship with our friends in the Yukon, and we've had several meetings not only with folks in the Yukon, but also British Columbia, Northwest Territories over the past few years. The governor certainly understands what it takes to have a strong economy and to grow economies, and Haines has a lot of advantages, and the opportunity, as you all know, and I guess that's why everyone's here, exists for jobs in this region. The comments earlier about the port being one piece in a system, if you talk about mining, for example, you need a transportation corridor, obviously the rail link, and also a port in order to access the seaborne commodities. It's hard to describe what's going on in the state of Alaska right now as far as development, particularly related to the oil and gas sector, with the large pipeline project, but also with the state's work on the ASAP line that HPC is undertaking on behalf of the state. The technological developments in the lower 48 have led to rapid development of LNG applications all around the world. In fact, the industriousness and technological breakthroughs that were pioneered in the U.S. is literally changing the energy dynamic around the world right now as we speak. And what you're seeing is the ability to have small-scale LNG. And I would not be surprised if we see LNG utilized in the state of Alaska all across the state in the very near future, whether that gas comes from the North Slope or the Cook Inlet or both. There's a couple of companies who are looking at new development in Cook Inlet for LNG, for domestic as well as export, and the governor as well as the legislature has undertaken the Interior Energy Project, which is well underway. In fact, you may have seen last week that ADA signed a consent agreement with MWH to pursue that project, where the state has successfully garnered private investment dollars in I guess what you would call a public-private partnership, which was the legislature and the governor's idea to start with, was that the state would have seed money, so to speak, and attract additional private capital in order to make that project successful. But there are two other companies right now that are looking at large-scale development of LNG in Cook Inlet. And those are substantial investments in the range of $600 million to $1 billion. And nobody will want to take them lightly, but when it comes to supporting future mining activity in this area, part of that system not only includes hard assets on the ground having to do with transportation corridors and ports, but also the Achilles heel to a lot of these operations is power and the cost of that power. And that can make or break the economics of projects. So the idea or the premise that you could have affordable LNG available even at distances that we talk about, say from Cook Inlet or Canada to Haines is certainly feasible, as we're already seeing in other locales. So I appreciate the opportunity to join everyone tonight, and look forward to hearing further conversation about the future of development.
I'm Chris Hawkins. I'm the Vice President of Research and Community Engagement at Yukon College. I'd like to thank Bill for asking the college to come down here. I think there's two areas that the college could play a role in this initiative. And one is we have Center for Northern Innovation in Mining, And we have a partnership with the University of Alaska Southeast for training both underground and open pit miners. And the training is done at Delta Junction and in the territory. And in addition to mining, there's also a trades component to it. And I don't know about in Alaska, but in Yukon, skilled trades are lacking or other big issues. So I think the training is close and maybe opportunity. In other areas in Yukon Research Center, where we look at innovative cold climate technologies. And so some of the regulatory bodies, if you have a technology that works in the south, often you're bringing it north to a cold climate, they're not too keen to accept it without demonstration. So we're working on some cold climate passive technologies, they're passive as opposed to active technologies. So we're looking at remediation of metals and hydrocarbons and soils with passive methods, and also the removal of metals from contaminated mine waters. And where we are so far, using bioreactors and artificial wetlands, and they look promising. I would say that we've demonstrated that they really work yet, but they look promising. And I think, just going back to what you said about diversifying the economy, the training and the research is a way to develop a knowledge economy, which is actually a very high value contributor to local economies, because most of the money stays in the community.
Yeah, I'm John Sagan, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Logan Environment. We had good years since I've been here last time. Good years, we've got our metallurgy sorted out to go after the platinum, nickel, and copper. Our ore deposit law, we made a lot of huge progress there. We got that all cleaned up in our LNG. We finished off those studies. Just a little detail. Normally we're running around 28 cents a kilowatt hour when we use diesel. And our LNG, the last time we ran the numbers, we were running at 12.5 cents. LNG, and that includes the transportation. So we're quite pleased with that. We're just wrapping up our technical report now for Wolverine and trying to get that out so that we can move it towards a feasibility study that determines that construction decision. One of the things that we'd like to do is with the companies that have done elsewhere in Ontario, etc., is that we don't want a transient workforce. That's not best for us in terms of sustainability. And the transient workforce is where you're flying people in all the time, and you have a mine camp, and you work 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out, because it creates a lot of problems with safety. People get hurt, and you get them trained and then quickly leave. And so we'd much rather have families located definitely up in the region, the general region, and have those employees here. So we promote that by investing in the communities and things like that. In terms of we have great government support from the Yukon government. It's amazing support. The premier was just down at the Denver Roadshow last week reviewing that. And just to give you a sense of what we're talking about with this particular project, is that the construction period is about 2 years. It will be about 2,500 personnel on the site to do that construction. We'll be bringing in around 400 million tons of material through the port for over that 2-year period, by the steel cable. One of the things we'll be doing is, the advantages of Haines is that you don't have to go through in tunnels. And what I mean by that is when we built the one up in Baffin Island, that mine up there, we brought in what we call modules. And modules is the mill or the camp where all your electrical, all your piping, everything is done at a place like Vancouver, for example, where you do it very efficiently. This is that cycle out in the bush. And then the module will be about 3 times the size of this building. And you bring it up on a barge, and then you put it on your flatbed, and there's about 20 people that come over to the meeting and we'll walk with that all the way. It's all computer controlled, and keep it all level. And we're bringing about 14 of these modules. And then you plug in all the foundations, and then you just connect the pipes and the electrical cables, and you have to run. So up in Baffin, we actually had the place up and running in about 6 months. And but it gives you a sense of how much material comes through here just during the construction period. And on top of that, you have about another 10 modules for mine camps and everything else that we're doing. get into the operations that we were discussing here, that the maintenance parts, equipment, consumables, everything that's coming through the system, as well as what's coming out in terms of the concentrate, which is like a sand, it's a powder. And we make sure that it's all very environmental. We do a lot of environmental due diligence on it. Everything's contained. It's all inside the trucks and things like that. This is what we did up in the Northwest Territories, etc. Make sure it doesn't blow away in the wind, like you were saying today. We don't lose it either. There's all contained inside buildings and things like that, so it's all a lot of environmental due diligence. So it's a huge project. We don't want to own it. As you were saying, a lot of the systems that we rely on, we want to do what we do best. That's mine. So we much rather support the experts who are in the trucking systems, control systems, that support those industries get started. But our preference, at least my preference, is not to become. So that's kind of a long list of grants we've done in my company to be very successful. So it's been a great future for us, and we're on the right path, and we're still moving forward with our plans to be implemented back in 2012 when we first started with the company. And we're looking forward to a great year next year, 2015. Thanks.
I'd just like to say something quickly. On our website, on the Haines Port Development Council website, we actually maintain, they have a newsletter that really fills you and keeps you totally up to date with what they're doing. And so anybody that would like to follow Low-Reach progress, on our website, and it's right there. And it's fascinating information that they have almost every newsletter. It's very fascinating stuff.
Yeah, we make good progress. We do want to be a diesel-free site for service. All our mobile equipment in the council is all the trucks that are being 40 types have been ran right now in North BC. But we want to be 100% LNG when we start turning power. And we're on target to attain that because we started production in 2018. Really on target to attain that.
Andy?
I'm Andy Hughes, supervisor of the public facilities of the Southeast Regional Planning Chief, and it is my responsibility to make the planning and recommendations to our capital improvements program for Southeast Alaska. With respect to mining, supporting mining development for access, we have identified approximately $100 million worth of improvement needs for the Haines Highway. And we've broken that into 4 segments. I was funding for $100 million. For reconstruction project is a little bit much to program all in 1 year. The Haines Highway project is currently in the environmental assessment phase. It's been there for over 10 years, I think over 11 years at this point. But we feel that we're just about there. And it's like those estimates that we should have improved environmental assessment in June or thereabouts. And following that, once we have the environmental document approved, we'll be in a position to move to design of our highest priority segment, which is the section 21 mile to 25.3 mile. This segment is towards the border. It encompasses the replacement of the Chocat River Bridge, and that's why this segment is we consider the highest priority in supporting future line haul. And it's also a section that has regards to the acquisition of through that process in due course and decide if over the coming year all goes well. And we have it ready for construction for 16 or 17, 2016, 2017. So we've been really keeping our eyes on what's developing in the Yukon, and certainly want to make sure that we have a few years to prepare the highway connection to accommodate any future mine haul. It looks like we are on schedule to meet any needs that may come down the highway, so to speak. But our highest priority is replacement of the Yukon, the Chilkat River Bridge. We also have another project that's under development to replace the Takahini Bridge, the bridge that provides access to the Palmer project. And that is, we anticipate being able to have that ready for construction in the early 2017. This is my test assessment. We're also going to be producing our next step, the transportation improvement program, which for the next 4 years, we hope to have that put together by the end of this year, if not a little sooner, and that will lay out our transportation program for the next 4 years. We want to be able to better report to you is where things fall. What I'm telling you is what's the soonest that we can have these projects ready to for construction. Notwithstanding any funding priorities. Those funding priorities will be for the next 4 years determined in the next few months to go. If we go in order of priority of improving the highway, we will be working from the border back. Once we have the environmental document, we would be able to deliver the section construction from 3.5 miles to 12.2 miles milepost sooner. But that's a lower priority, so it may be deferred of the program and other high priorities as well. But I've been informed that as soon as we have the Chilkat River Bridge portion ready to go, it will. We have other improvements that are going to be coming down the Haines area, but as far as supporting mine walls,
My name is David Coates, I'm the principal of Haines. I appreciate the opportunity to meet everyone, to get some of the other development opportunities going on in the Wyoming region. I've been city people, so I'm still learning the area. But one of the things that strikes someone when you look at the map, geography tells a story, and it says a lot about what we have here, what the potential is, and what some of the limitations are. So, working under the direction we sent, my job is really to shape conditions to take advantage of opportunities that comes available. So I'm looking forward to engaging with you, learning more about what you have to say, and making sure we can shape our environment here to support activities also.
If I could, John, we have the newspaper editor here. How many trucks a day are you figuring that you would be doing when you're
tad off on that calculation. More like 45, well, you probably about 400, I'm not sure what I said, but probably about 350,000 tons of steel.
But what is that?
But in terms of trucks, haulage trucks, LNG haulage trucks, we were starting off with 2 during the construction period initially, and then we're going to get up to 5, and then we get to, then we're running the 20 megawatt facility so far, and at that point we get to 10 trucks, and then eventually we get to 20 trucks after about 10 years of operation.
That's per day, per day. But see, there's been a lot of community.
All that's going to be recalculated now. We're in our technical report. We have a memo of understanding of NWH. Our next step.
All right, how many trucks of war are you expect today?
It would be, I think there's 30 trucks.
You see, there's those here in Haines that are just absolutely convinced that they're going to be nose to tail, like elephants. That, there'll be just no room for anything else on our roads.
It depends on how the upgrades of the roads go in the Yukon territory. If we can do a 75-ton GVW, then we would put that all down. We're about 110,000 tons so far. And the last talk, we're about 110,000 tons a year concentrated on units.
I just wanted to get to the man in charge, fill out the numbers so that we can cut some of these stories that go around.
You have a question? Go ahead. I'm Dave Nanny. I think most people know me. I'm a member of the Haines Port Development Council and also working with the group on the Haines Yukon Railway. And I've been a resident of Haines for quite some time. I was the first city administrator. They didn't have one before that. And it's kind of a precursor today. And then I did planning for the city of Hainesboro for many decades, so I know the area very well. And I thought I had kind of retired from all that, but I got recruited by his name Trudeau I mentioned to get re-involved. And I must say it's been a really interesting experience. The people that are working with us, this transboundary thing, this international cooperative concept is pretty interesting. And so I'm actually having a pretty good time working on this stuff. And I can say that it's almost like an extension of my working career, but it's more fun. It's not fun and none of the real responsibility. It's not my job to be doing this.
Seriously, that's it. Are there any questions that you have, George?
Yeah, George Campbell, I guess I'm going to say I'm an assembly member. I actually brought my assembly thing here. Local assembly member, but I hear a lot of stuff about everybody wanting to work together and bring stuff back and forth, Yukon to Haines. And I'm going to tell a little story. This last winter, we were working on our snowmobiles for the big race. My friends were in Whitehorse, and I called them up on the cell phone and I said, please go to Yukon Yamaha and get this gasket from my exhaust pipe. They're like, no problem. They got to the border, I'm talking a part this big, $110. And it took them about 15 minutes to get across the border because they were bringing parts across the border for somebody else. It wasn't theirs. And they were getting hassled. And at some point, since I've got the governor's office sitting in, I've got both governments sitting here, how are you guys going to handle this? I believe Constantine drives Yukon pickups rented out of Whitehorse. They can't rent vehicles here because they can't get them across the border with a Canadian driver's license. They're not allowed to drive them up into Canada. So, being a Haines person and wanting our economy to improve, what can we do to make it so that people can get their goods back and forth across the border so that when your mind calls up our local shop in Napa and say, do you have this? Oh yeah. Would you throw it on our truck instead of your truck getting seized and vice versa? What can we do with that?
You should have just gotten your gasket and Nexus card and everything would have gone. Oh, no.
looking at mine plan right now, but we're certainly in exploration in our budget this year was $6.2 million, and we're projecting about $1.25 million of that staying directly in Haines from suppliers and payroll, which we're very happy to have. Employees and great suppliers, and then all depends on not just future port development, but the current maintenance of the port and the barges we get in from Seattle, and we get shipments from Anchorage, and we get things trucked down from Fairbanks, we get things over from Whitehorse, we get things in from not from Skagway, but sometimes we'll throw parts on or throw people on, or trying to get people on the ferry or the barge or the flight from Juneau, or trying to find ways to get people from here to there. It's always challenging sometimes just due to weather and schedules, and if there could be 2 barges per week, that'd be great for us. Or sometimes we're delayed because we can't get things fast enough from where we need them. Or just getting flights in, some things go from Seattle up to Anchorage, back down to Seattle, and on the ferry. It's just sometimes the post office or FedEx or UPS, it's challenging, and the border we've become, experts at customs invoices and brokers and trying to get equipment and people across from Yukon here, and always run into little, snags here and there, and things that, could get here faster for us to do our job more efficiently and just get things done faster and cheaper is always, one of our goals that we're really hard on, and it helps to have a lot of good, meaningful employees who know the system as well around here, and it can help us kind of troubleshoot through some of the logistical challenges, which we're very, fortunate to have, and the existing infrastructure we have is great. I mean, the highway's great, having the barge coming legally is great. We want to make sure that highway is still well maintained, and rock slides and things like that are maintained. And we've got maybe 10 people a day commuting from Haines and using that highway regularly. We've got fuel trucks coming once or twice a week. We've got pallets of drill supplies and things coming in regularly, and it's good to have the current roads maintained and the current ordinance maintained as well as thinking about future improvements.
That was a very good question, George, and that was the very first thing that Bill Kurz and I started researching was what about this transboundary thing and getting goods to it? How do we do that? So Bill started working directly with the U.S. Customs and the Anchorage office, and got to know them, and they started writing back and forth, and they sent us all the regulations, and we asked them all the what-if questions about Canadian goods coming this way, U.S. goods or Canadian goods coming through the U.S. back into Canada, types of goods, like, raw materials, these sort of, those are good questions, but parts, just things like parts, and they're very critical. And the answer is you communicate in advance with your customs officials, and you let them know, hey, we've got this international snowmobile race because every year we're going to need parts maybe, on an emergency basis to bring to the port. And cut the deal in advance before it's like a crisis at the border. That's basically
like Dave's saying, we got to know customs people. Jeff Licious is the head court man for Anchorage and Alaska, and he was here. He explained, like Dave's saying, just how to go about handling things. It works best if you can have Canadian goods going to Canadian people, and it just passes through. The other thing you have is what they call a secure warehouse, and that doesn't mean it's a building. It can be a fenced-in area, and everything that goes into it is accounted for when it goes out of it. Something's missing, well, then it went someplace else. So you better have the paperwork to show where it went. But what he said is true. Knowing in advance what you're going to be doing and doing the good old paperwork. That's one thing customs has really got is paperwork. And if you do that, it can be made to work quite easily. But you must get your ducks in a row to start with. And when you're talking about the oddball part that I suddenly need is the hard part.
Also, the customs people, we asked them, well, how would you, we want to know the details, how would you manage the Port of Haines with these international goods coming both ways? And they said they would just send personnel down from the border, whatever they were needed to inspect transship goods, and then if it required a job, a customs official or officials to post it right here in Haines, in Illinois, well, then they would do that. They would post officials here in Haines to deal with the administrative details of transshipments going both ways internationally. So basically, once again, communicating with them, keeping them, up front, ahead of the curve.
But in a follow to that, are American truckers going to be allowed to drive to his mine and pick up ore and bring it down to our port?
That, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, this is the next opportunity when the borough and the tribe go back to DC next year if we do. Those are topics we need to discuss with our federal representatives.
Because like I say, Constantine is renting vehicles out of Whitehorse because they can't drive them back and forth. For our economy, that's something I think that this group here should consider. You're right, maybe it should be something the tribes and
The tribe and the borough.
Yeah.
We're starting to work pretty good together.
Now, George, if you know the details of that, or maybe Liz can help, either one of you, email me the details of what you're running into, and I'll send it up to Jeff and get the answer right from the top.
Well, it's a daily insight too.
It really all came down to when the currencies were at different values and they were trying to prevent the import of cheaper U.S. vehicles in Canada. And it sort of resulted in this weird situation where a Canadian can't rent a U.S. vehicle and drive it back into Canada because they think we're going to sell it over there. So we...
Deborah.
Thank you. I have a question. It's not directly about the local economy. And it's, I want to direct it to the representative from Parnell's office and perhaps also you, Andy. This summer I was in Dawson and standing at the airport and a bus of tourists came in and got on the plane and lifted off. It was, I thought, very short runway. I was told that the state of Alaska no longer maintains the top of the world highway because, and so the economy for many years that was the Big Holland America was the major user of the highway that would bus people from Dawson to Fairbanks and then continue on with their tour. Now they are flying people from Dawson to Fairbanks, so that the communities along that highway, is like Chicken and Eagle, I'm sorry, it's a little vague up there. So those communities are suffering a loss of that tourism economy. I don't know if this is true, so that's the first question. Is that true? And secondly, if it is true, I would like to know what elements are analyzed. What components of a local economy are analyzed when one makes a determination whether you're going to maintain or not maintain a road?
Well, it's outside of my region, but as far as I know, we maintain the top of the road highway and are continuing to maintain it. We don't maintain it during the winter months.
This was not the winter. Okay, so maybe it was their own decision not to scuttle about it.
Anyway, that's erroneous information. We maintain it as soon as winter's over and we're satisfied. The last fall and well, certainly before the tour season starts, we open up the highway.
So it's possible that in their standards, possibly they just made a decision for their own internal economy. That's possible, but it's not what I heard. So I don't know if anyone knows the details about that.
Deborah, when I was up there last year, Holland America was running over the highway, and because of the tightness of the road and the size of the buses they're using now, they were running pilot cars, so maybe it just got too expensive or something. They ran the pilot cars in front of them and behind them so that they would intercept getting into the traffic that was coming down.
Oh, because the buses are too big. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, fine.
You're next. Okay.
Diane, of course. So So I have a question for the gentleman who came from, sorry I didn't catch your name earlier. But you mentioned concentrate, so when it gets to the port, then you were going to try to dump it without it blowing away in the wind.
Yeah, everything's contained.
So could you give more specifics about that? Specifically, how would you contain that dust?
Because when it comes to the trucks, the truck has a cover that comes over the top, and we keep it all, that cover on the top while we drive the truck down the road. Then it goes inside the common shed, and then it dumps inside that shed. And we have our filters that dumps inside of it, so that nothing gets dumped outside. Then from inside the shed, it goes onto a conveyor belt. It goes inside the hold of the shed. The conveyor belt is also covered in that.
So everything is entirely contained.
When we design the system, some of the mines will actually go to a pneumatic system, a pipeline. You know, and you literally hook the pipeline to the truck, and then it goes through the pipe under air pressure into a big container, a shed. And then there goes by another pipe into the shed.
So when it's in the ship, how is it contained?
Oh, they put the holes, they cover the top, over the hatch.
Before they fill it?
After it's filled, yes. Like it comes through a conveyor belt, in through that, right into the ship. And then after that, they put the, like you're saying, the hatch cover.
So is there a possibility for the dust to fly out in the wind?
Minimal, it's minimal.
Because?
Because everything's always contained inside. It's always inside a covered conveyor, inside a covered ship, inside a storage, concentrate storage building, inside a covered truck. We never like to expose it to where it would get blown away.
So, I'm sorry, I maybe don't know this, but it sounds like it's all contained, and then it gets put in the ship.
Right.
And once it's in the ship, then you put the cover on it.
Yeah.
We get great winds up here.
Yeah,
How
so
would
like
you
it goes
contain
inside
that dust?
a 2 foot by, that's Skagway, 2 foot by 3 foot.
Goes right down into the ship, so they don't have to rock it. It goes through the air, they bring it right down to the top of the pile, and just put it down, goes in, it fills the ship.
Engineering-wise, they've learned how to handle air and handle stuff that's flying in the air to separate it. I used to work for White Bass, and Danny used to work, sitting right there, in that hotel. And people who worked in the ore shed over there would come up over to the Klondike after work, and they came in black. Today, you can do that same work in white surface.
This is your ship. The pipe is like this, it goes inside that little holder, and then you fill it, it goes through that pipe, and then you lift the pipe up and put the hatch cover on.
My recommendation, is this because that's information that I think should get out to the community.
Oh, we have to,
Because there's concern out there about this.
Oh, for sure, like we have to, as part of our environmental permitting system, we have to put on community presentations, and then it's monitored by the government, the different authorities, and as well as the Alaska authorities, and they'll be monitoring what we're doing to make sure we're meeting the compliance, we're meeting the criteria set out in our permit. And so, and we have to put on those community presentations, and everything we do.
And then one more question and then we'll move on. How many ships would actually be in Lutak Inlet at any one time waiting to be loaded, or just there? Because I heard from another community person who says, I don't want to sit in my house and look across Lutak and see an ore ship or two or whatever parked in the inlet.
I think it's a ship, there's only one ship, and I think it comes through about every 3 weeks or something.
So one every 3 weeks, and in between there's not an ore. Because see, the
I
ore ships.
can't give you the exact numbers, I apologize, I have to go through it, but usually it takes them about 3 days to load it up. And they have the holes in the ship, are about 10,000 tons each hole. And they'll take 30,000 tons from us, 20,000 tons from Minto, 10,000 tons from Wolverine. We roll it all up and the ship takes off.
Because right now, what you're doing is when they're backed up in Skagway, they're being parked and you're tucked in there.
No, that's not backed up, that's weather.
Well,
Every now
whatever it
and then
is.
they have a cruise ship in there or dock, is the reason they don't bring one over here.
So
Or do the weather.
because I used to work for Capstone for a couple of years, and the ship would come in, we'd have a ship, we order a ship once every couple of months, or once a month or so, and we would time it. So we had enough concentrate to fill it, we didn't have enough concentrate. And then it would show up and we'd come back and get trucks in there, we'd have concentrate in the sheds and we'd fill the ship. So we'd wait, we would run 2-3 days to get it out of it.
Thank you.
But, I mean, when we put on our presentation, like right now, we're still doing our technical calculations. When we go to put on a new presentation, we'll have a lot better numbers on truck and ships, everything else, and we'll have our production plan established, and all that will be sorted out. But right now, it's still a very preliminary stage.
Any other questions?
Just following up on her question, that's a good question. There are 4 ships that would be in Newtown due to our port operations, they would be tied up at the dock, loading. So basically, you wouldn't see them, they just be right against the dock, against the shore. They wouldn't be anchored out in the face. And it's not that many, the ships aren't that frequent either. So our ships would be at work up at the dock, facing loading, so they can get out of there. But we have really no control over the Skagway ships who have no place to be except in tacking under certain conditions. If there's a cruise ship at their dock, Skagway Harbor is not a safe place with windage, weather, they gotta get out of there and get to a secure harbor, which is inland. So maybe you need to talk to the folks at Skagway. If you're concerned about warships, they get up in your face and attacking it.
What is, I would brag, just to give you some context, they would come in with all the aircraft fuel, of course, all the diesel fuel, aircraft fuel, all the maintenance parts, and it would take all the concentrate. But it would come through maybe once every 6 weeks or something, once a month, for 3 or 4 days, and that's it. It's gone.
I don't know if anybody can remember back in the 60s and 70s, anybody was scared that night. But, yeah, George, I remember going out there with my father and seeing a PLL U.S. Army tanker tied up at PLL dock, a ferry, a AFP, Alaska Forest Products ship, and then a Straddle ship. So we have been in the past where we've had, and some of those PLL ships were pretty freakishly big. I don't know what size they were, but they were the biggest things I ever saw at that age. So we've had some activity where we've had a lot of ships out there. And we need to, if one comes in every 3 weeks, I wonder how many people realize it's even there. Like, how many people realize that Delta Western hauls fuel every day of the week?
We run about 10 or 12 trucks a day right now.
Yeah, so
You
get accustomed to it. I hardly ever see them unless they're stopped off at Delta Western getting a cup of coffee and some popcorn or whatever. So, but yeah, so I don't think, I have no problem with potential jobs. Let's put that.
One thing you might think about as far as you're concerned about the dust and about the ships being around, all of this is driven by money. John does not want his concentrate laying alongside the road. He doesn't get any money for that. He doesn't make out very well if the ship has to sit out Bluetack Inlet rather than being the dock gets filled up. So money regulates getting the job done as clean and as quickly as possible.
Any other questions? Oh man, I couldn't see it today, sorry.
Diana Lappham, I too am on the Haines Borough Assembly. With all due respect to everyone on this panel, I'm curious now as to what is the next step? What can we expect to see coming? Would it come to the assembly level? Would it come in? Where are we going from here? This is really exciting, and I'm really anxious to sink my teeth into something, but what can we expect now?
Well, if somebody will pass one of these to Diana. At any rate, we're in a position now that John Sagman over there is looking at the next few years. He's ready to call war, and he has a choice. We can all work together and develop our port, rebuild the dock, kill food lumber, and put up the ore terminal, and John comes here. And we in Haines make money on the handling that ore, operating that dock. Or we can say, well, gee, John, we just can't figure out how to do this. You'll just have to go to Skagway. So John goes the extra 68 miles each way. He goes to Skagway. They got the ore terminal. They can handle it. At least at the moment they can, because the other line's shut down. Skagway has a problem. There's only so many sardines you can get in a can. And Skagway is close to that problem. But let's say they can take John's ore. I don't know what an ore truck costs per mile. We hope to find out pretty quick. But that 68 miles each way would cost him a lot. So let his website show us that they want to come to Haines. He has repeatedly said he wants to come to Haines. So we have to work together so that Larry, representing Chilkoot Lumber Company, can put the wheels in, moving ahead, rebuild the dock, build an ore terminal. That's going to take a lot of money. One of the ways is he can just try and present a business plan saying, okay, John tells me he's going to bring his ore here. You know, that we need an investment of several $1 billion here. I don't know how many investors he would get based on that business plan. They can have an MOU, memorandum of understanding, that says John's going to bring it here. But I still don't think he's going to get too many investors. But you asked about the borough, and I was just explaining this to Stephanie earlier. There's what's known as a public-private partnership. In fact, Jeff mentioned that about a partnership. That's where you have a public entity, a private entity, build a partnership that makes it worthwhile for an investor. Unfortunately, the people of this area have spent the past 15 years learning how to use government money for everything. Well, guess what? The government money's drying up, just like we're not getting quite so much oil anymore. So we got to look at how to encourage private investment. So if the borough, with its established business, being the Lutak dock, were to partner up with Chilkoot Lumber in some way, and any partnership requires boundaries and limitations and expectations of partners involved, then a presentation can be made to an investment company that would come up with the money, maybe improve the Lutak dock, repair it. You as an assembly person know it's in dire need of repair. Come up with the money to rebuild the dock in Chilkoot and put the ore terminal up. That way you have the ore coming to Chilkoot to go out to the ships, and you have all of that John talked about that has to come in to supply the bond. You make the money both ways. This company I just gave you the flyer for is the company that was behind Matt Vickers with the G7G project, that rail from Alberta oil sands to our oil pipeline. You'll see they have over $200 billion of investments around the world in that project. They are interested in our port. They're interested in our ramp. I gave letters out from Walter Presley, who's the director of that company, to the parties that are in positions to be part of this, and gave one statement. That if we work together, and that's the catchword, we work together, we
It's how long it takes to go before the farm.
Yeah, it's your for profit, John.
Yeah.
We deal with government, sometimes. No, no, when you deal with government, you add
The legal lawyer is 43 hours.
you add a layer of slowness.
So, two questions. One, I guess, would be fire to Larry and Bill. As you well know, and Bill was mentioned, the LUTAC dock has got issues. If there's to be a big dock project, is there enough room with the Chilton Lumber Company to move all the activity from the LUTAC dock and move all that activity plus the order terminal on Chilton Lumber Company? And that's question one. Question two, directly to you, sir. How many months or years until your company is going to be able to say, we will open the mine? And then what's the lead time from that point that you're shipping construction materials?
It's, of course, it depends. Apologies, but the fastest it would be is if we can get our capital low enough that we can finance it ourselves. And there's a lot of, we get a lot of support from Yukon government, our First Nations partners, etc. To achieve those goals, if everything really went well, we would be making a production, we would be spending money in 2016 on long-term items. And then we would be targeting 2018 for gold production. If things don't go well, and we have a large $1 million project where it's very hard to raise financing, we have to go get a partner, etc., things like that, from the Asia to help out, do an off-take agreement, etc., then at that point you'd be looking at another 4 or 5 years if you have a good project. And so, it gives me a sense as to where we're at.
So we've got 2 years.
2 years to the earliest, but then at that point your construction kicks in, you have a lot of material coming through here for construction. If we're down to the Haines, and it's such a nice hall up there, it's not going underneath tunnels, but large equipment and stuff like that, it's all
George, do you really think you would have to close the LUTAC dock and rebuild it?
No, that's
What needs to be done? I don't. I think
We have not got an official engineering study, I don't believe, that we did.
They were discussing the draft yesterday, we anticipate we will have it to us in 2 weeks.
What I was hearing but what I heard just over coffee was a 60-foot, 30 or 60-foot tiebacks all the way down to ground level. So they have to dig back for the tiebacks 60 feet. So it is going to be a substantial rework.
Yeah, well, I just wonder whether that's something that requires closing down the whole dock, or whether you could do a third or half, and keep the other part open.
Probably could, but like, if we've got to dump $10 to $20 million in the dock, my thought is that it's not going to be big enough for, Blue Jack Dock's not big enough for water terminal and the current stuff.
Right.
So if we have $10 million to put in the dock anyway, would it be a better fit? I'm just talking pie in the sky here, but would it be a better fit to put that into Ace and run one really big dock with all the operations on?
I really think that I have said to every group that we've talked to since we put our council together, the LUTAC dock is a wonderful large dock for bringing goods in. The Chilkoot property, the deep water already, we don't need to worry about dredging or anything like that. Once that dock is rebuilt, because that's what it needs, and having the acreage it does, it's great for the ore terminal. There is no way you can put a suitable ore terminal on the LUTAC dock and still do business. It's just square footage. That's reminding people that were here 2 years ago, particularly Richard Wyman from Northern Cross. We got out of the bus out there at LUTAC dock, he about blew his top because that's all he'd been told about was LUTAC dock. He didn't know about the others. And pointed out, you don't have room for an ore terminal. He says, forget about natural gas here. But he was very happy with the idea of it being a good barge dock for bringing goods in. It's set up for that, rebuilding the structure of the dock, so it's not having its problems it currently has, is a good move. You don't have to worry about dredging because you got deep water, it's got the road at Chilkoot for the big ships for sending it out. You've got your round robin right there. You've got the freight both directions.
To answer the question though, George, about an ore terminal and a freight terminal at the same place at the same time, our permit covers the footprint of the current dock that's there. You know, we've got almost half a mile of waterfront, but there would have to be other core permits to, extend something either way, to handle barge traffic and ship traffic, roughly at the same time.
Well, I'm thinking storage capacity on the ground. I'm not.
Well, there's plenty of storage.
We can schedule barges and ships away from each other. I'm thinking storage facility.
Storage facility, there's, the way I've got it laid out anyhow, there's room for an ore terminal to the west of the dock towards the head of Wutack Inlet with the ferry system going out on the side and leaving the bulk of the approach docks open so that there was, unless the shiploader was at the far eastern limit of its travel, there would be plenty of room to go by and have freight.
Also, that we see there's a window in time, there's a window of opportunity to get that new deck dock. Our rights to society, to get it done, because we need that equally as much as a improved children's lumber dock facility. We need both. The answer is both. We need both. So as far as like a priorities and an agenda, I don't think it would be for us to really be supportive of the borough in its efforts to get that dock in line, re-engineered and rebuilt ASAP as soon as possible. As soon as it's feasible, because it is now a strategic facility and will be even more strategic in the future. So I think that's the answer. And we would certainly, I know our Port Development Company would just really enjoy working with the borough on that. We've got a lot of first name basis, political contacts, and then Bill's very good at that. He's I think we'd be just really glad to politic on behalf of the borough, work with the borough, and speed things along.
Anything else? So if I get what I get out of this meeting is that it's incumbent upon the Haines Borough and Haines residents to start working together to put our system together, so to speak. So I wouldn't put it past the borough to, seriously looking at somehow getting in partnership with Children Lumber if possible. Work something out. I think the problem with Haines is for the last 100 years we've waited and waited and waited because we said Haines is so special they're going to come here. When we have to realize that in order to get him here we got to build it. So I think that's, I don't know about the rest of you, but I personally think that's our next step, is where we need to investigate a public-private partnership. I'm not looking at you, Dave, I'm just looking at the rest.
But the thing is, with that public-private partnership, in time, we know the tank farm is going to have its environmental cleanup and be turned over, so that'll be another part of the port. That could, at that time, become part of that partnership, so that you have a full operational that's one entity, because we need that type of partnership, that will have the interest of the private investment people. And as far as this bunch right here, all we got to do is show them a good business plan for our railroad, and the money's there. Mr. Presley made that clear. Same as he made it clear for the T-17 project. Show me a good business plan, and we're on. They're interested in our area. They're interested in the infrastructure for the mining and the port. So really all we got to do is get our act together and make a good business plan, whether it's going to be just the Wutack dock, just Chilkoot lumber, or the combination thereof, which is what I think will be a lot more appealing to the private industry or the private investment people. We got to work on it. We got to work together on it. It's the only way it's gonna happen. We're just sitting there waiting. It's gonna be like Scott Rossman said, why is everything goes to Skagway? Well, there's the answer. We gotta go on our butts and do it.
Also, in the future, George, assuming these facilities gradually come into operation, that's all going to be managed. Things are going to be scheduled, there has to be agreements all the time on how this is going to work, how that's going to mesh. And so it's going to have to be jointly managed. And because the Lieutenant Office government needs, the tank farm will be sort of, it's a kind of quasi-government, quasi-private, because of the nature of the children tribal organization, and then the children lumber dock will presumably continue to be private. So you have an interesting, conglomeration that's going to actually have to, for smooth, operate, it's going to have to be kind of cooperatively managed. So getting started now, the partnership concept is a great idea because then we'll get used to that idea and then we can figure out how we jointly manage these industrial properties, even when things get going.
Yeah, one for one, I have a hard time getting my head around public-private partnership and how we do it. I mean, I haven't kind of, came to grips with it myself. I'm more than willing to sit down and discuss it if somebody really knows how to explain it and, the equity positions and something like that. But, it makes sense to me, my captain, he talked about that, we were kind of around, but still, even in getting him explained to him, my head still has.
In Alaska, there's precedent.
We have a fellow from Community and Economic Development that wants to be up here probably next month. He would love to be here tonight, but he couldn't, but he has volunteered to come up here next month to sit down with us and work on exactly that type of thing.
Bill and Dave and Larry remember Mike's presentation on public-private partnerships. And what I took away from that was there is no such thing as public-private partnership generic. They're all very specific to a goal. And so it would be those goals that need to be articulated and defined that, would ultimately predict the best investment portfolio that would be of advantage both to the private sector and to the public sector, because the public's money is the public's money, and there are lots of things that go along with spending the public's money. As Dave was talking about, all these different entities, have you guys talked about a port authority at all as a vehicle for organizing the utilization of the transportation corridor and that kind of thing? Have you talked about that at all?
We haven't really talked amongst each other about it. I've talked, as I told you, with Bill Sheffield about it. And Bill is the one who tried to steer me away from it. He feels it has too many negatives. But it's probably worth digging into.
I think we should probably look at that a little bit, as a vehicle that might organize these things and set up a financial structure as well. I asked Andy if he would give us a ferry the other day, and he said, sure.
He just said sure. Nothing else?
Andy, have you got any questions of our mining man alongside you or the Yukon government people?
Well, sure. The question is always, when are you going to need the highway to be capable of handling overloads? In 2 years. Kind of early.
Just say 2 years. He's government man. That means it'll be 4 years before he gets it.
One thing I'd like to bring into this is, I invited AMG and CG to be here tonight because the one thing they got left out of our rail study was tourism. Our rail study, very simply, just straight up looking at coal and ore, comes up $750,000 a year short of being profitable. I believe Mike here in particular can tell us the kind of money that White Pass is handling every year in the way of tourists that we potentially would have a good share of. I got a strange feeling that Kelso Academy is going to certainly rival White Pass as far as a tourism attraction. So, I think Mike can speak a little bit to that, because I think the tourism added into what the rail study shows makes it a viable operation.
Yeah, and obviously, if you've been to Skagway, you know that White Pass is Skagway, and it's purely based on passengers doing summit trains, doing Lake Bennett trains, connecting with other tours, Bill Fraser. It's the only reason that cruise ships travel as far north as they do is because of that train. If we lost White Pass, there wouldn't be a reason for the ships to come to Skagway. So the value of the tourism dollars and just the jobs that railroad creates in Skagway and the economic push that gives the town is huge, hugely impactful.
Most people here have, whaling, mining, as mentioned a lot, but most of the people in this room actually have an association with tourism as well. Like I've got a big breakfast, I've got a big report of tourism over in the Haines. Larry manages a hotel, and his choice. So he's obviously really interested in tourism. So don't be put off on this land because like there's a tourism, for instance, like we see if there were a train from Haines northward, that would be a tourism opportunity. That would be like world class. So, but look, that's great ways to utilize that in terms of getting people, adventure tourists off the train at critical spots so they can then do, wrap down rivers or whatever. You're talking about transportation. It boils down to like, how do you get your people? So, we've seen that go along as a high potential, high value use of all these transportation potential components.
Do you have any numbers on ridership?
Not specifically, I don't work for White Pass, but you can take a given cruise ship day and they'll, take 300, 400, 500 people on a departure with up to 3 departures on a busy day, and that's for the summit train there in Skagway.
And that's $280 a head, as I recall, isn't it?
Summit train itself is supposed to be 110. If you're tying into Bennett or Fraser, then your price goes up significantly. And you look at just rough numbers based on just generalizations. If you take, say, 2/3 of people that come into Skagway on a cruise ship will book a short excursion, that's being generous. Half is probably more realistic. Over half of those folks are taking the White Pass train, and that's probably directly from the White Pass talking that. Be it just for sightseeing or tying in with other tours. The train accounts for half of the passenger load that are doing tours for profit in town.
The White Pass Yukon Railroad, and this is a few years old, but at that time, they were the largest capacity shore excursion in the world.
Yep. And, right now, we get 1 tour ship a week, on average. But we get a lot of those tourists from Skagway by way of the Fast Ferry. Fast Ferry can handle a few more passengers. I've got a strange strange feeling, another year, there might be more capacity to the Bass Ferry, without me telling too many tales out of school. So, that being the case, we have the potential, without even more tourism coming to Haines, to handle a fair number of people if we had something like a rail. And of course, AMD is constantly building up what they do here. That's why they are the biggest tour company that we have at the moment. They're not going to back off. They're going to keep on growing. Have to know those people that's a little bit involved in that.
All right, anything else?
Jeff, do you have any questions, or did you got enough information to pass on to Sean?
No, Karen, ready to go? Yes. That's my soon-to-be in-laws. All right. Yeah, my son's married.
John, have we answered enough questions for you, or give you enough problems? You
It's all good. So since there's nothing else, does everybody want to go to Captain's Choice or wherever?
What about tomorrow? What do we request?
Well, if there's anybody here that wants to get together tomorrow at Captain's Choice, that's totally informal. You know, the last time we had a bunch of people, well, we had bad weather, they were having trouble getting out of town, so they wound up wondering whether they could use the lounge up there to talk, make deals, or learn more about one another. We just included it with this and say, hey, it's there, it's open. Larry made it clear that, you know, people can use the lounge anytime tomorrow for meeting and figure out what they want to do.
And there's a candidate, a chamber election, candidates to be.
Chamber of Commerce has a candidates election at the White House.
And the White House.
We have to tear this down.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, they want the tables pulled up and put a stroller there. The chair is pointing towards that. So that's it, that's all I have to do.
Thank you, gentlemen.